Thank you. Respected Chairperson, my predecessor at Indian Institute of Mass Communication, Professor B.P. Sanjay, other esteemed fellow panelists, Professor Archana Singh, my friend Professor Pradeep Malik, and of course my former colleague and a dear young friend for a long time, Dr. Rajiv Panda, and all the esteemed, distinguished faculty members who are present here, research scholars and dear students. First of all, my compliments to Professor Upendra Padi. This is perhaps I have been attending a lot of academic conferences, particularly in the discipline of mass communication. But I must say that this is perhaps the first time that 3 days were exclusively dedicated to discussion on artificial intelligence, which is today being widely debated. And particularly in the context of media, in the context of industry, in the context of the media industry, there was hardly any aspect of AI which has not been covered in the last 3 days. And for me, because right now I have been entrusted by the University Grants Commission, I'm a panel member for creating the curriculum framework for, under the NEP 2020. Perhaps there could not have been a more appropriate forum for learning, for receiving so many valuable insights and inputs. So my compliments to Professor Padi for organizing this wonderful conference. I think the disadvantage of being the last speaker is that almost all the points that you wanted to, highlight have already been spoken by my previous speakers. So it enables me to sum it up in a way. But a couple of points. As I have been introduced, I've been a journalist and academician. I've written research papers, book chapters, prefaces. But unfortunately or fortunately for the students and unfortunately for me, I've never written a book. How? Because I never got the time. Because I believe that it requires a lot of academic rigor. And I did not believe in asking one of my research scholars to write a book for me. So I thought that I'll keep it for the later stage of my life. But only this morning, Professor Sanjay, I came to know that I'm a prolific author. You can call it narcissism. You can call it curiosity. I decided to ask AI, who is KG Suresh? Aham Brahmasmi. So AI told all the good things, It was a virtual Suresh Chalisa, But one very important thing, it highlighted that I am a prolific author of several books which are being taught at several Indian universities. From where did AI come to know about it? AI is really futuristic, I must say. It has started imagining, and who says AI cannot be creative? It can even write fiction. So I'll start on that note that, we have been, few years back when I organized a conference at IIMC, a very prominent teacher from the United States asked me something very interesting. He said, Professor Suresh, are we grooming journalists in our classrooms or are we grooming technocrats? So much of emphasis on technology that we forget that whether it is, earlier the video technology and subsequently the digital technology and now AI and ML and AR and VR, animation. The focus is so much on technology that the focus has shifted from journalism. And that is what is increasingly missing in this country, I'm sorry to say. We have a lot of technology, but there is very little of journalism. And that is, as a media practitioner and a media teacher, that's my biggest concern today. That where is journalism heading towards? That are we losing sight, so much of focus in the classroom on digital lab, on video lab, on virtual storytelling, visual storytelling, immersive learning, all the new terms, the new vocabulary, the new terminologies. They have swamped us like anything, but we are not talking about basic journalism. How many of our students know what constitutes an electoral college for a president and an electoral college for a vice president? These are simple things about the Constitution of India, about the laws, the IPCs and CRPCs, which have now become part of the BNS, the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. How many are aware of the ethics, the code of conduct? I really don't know. So much of focus in classrooms. Wherever I go, I travel across the country, go to different classrooms, and wherever I go, they always tell me, sir, we are doing this lab, we are doing this, we are doing this, we are doing Mojo, we are doing, okay, you are doing Mojo, but first do Joe. Joe is more important. So that is the most critical thing. Are we losing sight of journalism? What is journalism? And can AI do journalism? Except maybe it can. I'm not opposed to technology. But I believe that technology can be a facilitator. But not more than that. AI tools can be complementary to a media educator. But it cannot replace the media educator. It cannot replace classroom experience. The virtual experience cannot. That is important. If my students are to be only told about AI, why should they come to the classroom? Am I able to, sometimes I really wonder that what about investigative journalism? Can AI do investigative journalism? I have been for the last 3 years, I am on the panel of the Ramnath Goenka Awards, which is considered one of the most prestigious awards in the country, along with Justice B.M. Sri Krishna and, our S.Y. Qureshi Sahab. And believe me, investigative stories have disappeared from the so-called national media. It is now there only in the language media, to some extent. Now, can AI do investigative stories? No. What about the empathy that is the most critical quality in a journalist? Does it have empathy? It doesn't. So, can you imagine journalism with AI and without human oversight? We cannot. Today is the era of toolkits. Agenda-driven journalism is a reality today. Let's face it. Who will give that critical input? AI can give you only what is there. I mean, today there is so much of emphasis today, Professor Rachna, on Indian knowledge system, Bharatiya Gyan Parampara. What can AI do in that? You don't have anything about, Bharatiya Gyan Parampara or Indian knowledge system, hardly any material on the web. You hardly find. So, who will do that? What about research on marginalized sections of the society, the underrepresented sections in the mass media, who are even today, who are hugely underrepresented, a large chunk of this country, whether it is rural, whether it is the, backward regions of the country, hardly media or anybody talks about them. Can AI algorithms pick up stories from there? No. It will have to be the human, the reporter who has to go there. who has to do that documentation first. There is no primary data available on a lot of tribes, on indigenous knowledge. Hardly any data available. We haven't yet worked on that. So, I believe that I am a great supporter of technology. In fact, I want to be, I always say that we are digital migrants, or what we say like you divide history into two parts. Before Christ and Anno Domini, you divide media into two parts, BG and AG, before Google and after Google. So we are the before Google generation here, and most of you are the after Google generation. So we are transforming, learning. But what it has done is that the focus has shifted from research to search. Whether it is Google or the chatbots, the focus is no more on research. The focus is on search. Are you using the right keyword? Is that research? What about anthropological research? Who will go to the ground level? That is what journalism is all about. Ground zero reporting from ground zero. AI cannot do that. So what is happening is that we are all in our echo chambers. AI will tell us what we want to listen, not what we have not listened. That's what journalism has to do. Tell us stories that we have not heard. Tell us stories which have not been told. This is what journalism should be telling us. Now, can we do that? Can AI help us in that? That is what we need to. The National Education Policy also talks about the NETF, the National Education Technology Platform. It's a very prominent platform, which has been conceived in the National Education Policy about bringing educational technology, learning management systems, for assessment, for everything. But it can, as I said, that particularly from a media point of view, maybe, in terms of natural sciences, AI can be, or engineering, it can be utilized much more effectively. But for something like media, which is the fourth estate, the voice of the voiceless, which is about talking about all sections of society, I think that it necessarily has to be AI plus. It cannot be just AI. I just want to flag just more couple of points, because we are already running, just a couple of points which I noted down. I believe that yes, it's a very powerful tool, particularly in visualization, in breaking down huge data. It's immensely useful. But then the question is that, where is the data coming from? What about the bias? The data bias which is there. Who collected it at the end of the day? It can do data analytics, but then where is the data coming from? That is important. The data is at the end of the day provided by, say the census data is there. It has been compiled by the, census officials. So how can you eliminate the bias part of, AI? That is a big challenge before us, because AI comes with its own, based out of whatever narratives are present there, it comes with those prejudices. And last but not the least, I believe that ethics is a very important part of it. Privacy issues are there. Data privacy issues are there. So, I believe that, again, technology dependency. Recently, all the Indigo flights, Professor Sanjay, were grounded on a day because the system just collapsed. Imagine if we become so, we have seen in certain science fiction movies. Imagine if it pervades every aspect of our lives. I have seen it at least in terms of airlines. I have seen it in banks, bank operations coming to a grinding halt because the system, there is a system failure. Imagine it happening in every part of our life, in every aspect of our life. I remember watching that, movie, I don't recollect the name, where the person is totally taken over by another person. His identity is taken over by another person. Everything, like we have the Aadhaar card now, similarly, this person becomes that person, and that person becomes non-existent. Are we moving towards that? I remember one professor from Kolkata had come to our university, and he met a very senior professor in our university who was on the verge of retirement. And they were introducing to each other. So he was saying that I have taught at Banaras Hindu University and all that stuff. So this young professor from Kolkata asked him that, are you on Facebook? He said, no. Are you on X or Twitter, whatever it was? Are you on Instagram? Are you on LinkedIn? He said, no, I'm not on any of these platforms. Then he said that, sorry, professor, for me, you don't exist. If you are not on any of these platforms, you don't exist. Are we moving towards that, where if we are not technologically alive, if we are not technologically existing, we don't exist? Then what about the large sections of society which will go unrepresented, which has no voice? What happens to them? Is it that real digital divide we are going to talk about, the technology divide we are going to talk about? These are ethical concerns we need to address. It's very important. I remember, lastly, a movie which was in Malayalam, which was a science fiction movie. I think its name was, it is available on the net. Some of you should watch, even though it is in Malayalam, it speaks a universal language. It is called Android Apachan or something like that. It is about a robo. A son gets employment in Russia, and he doesn't have time for his father who is living alone. So, he builds a computer with his fiancée to look after his father. And the robo starts looking after his father, serving him food, and so much so that initially the father resisted, opposed. But then finally there is a bond between the father and the robo who is called the android, whatever. They develop a very strong bond. And finally, he becomes emotionally so much dependent that once when the son comes home to visit his father, the father does not want the son to be around. He always wants to be with this robo. Always. Then he asks the robo something, and the robo says that, sir, I only have whatever your son has fed into me. I don't have anything for you, any emotion for you, which I can replace your son. And then there comes a malfunction in the robo, and the robo tries to murder the son. And that is when the father, I think you have seen that movie, and the father then hacks this computer when the robo tries to. It's a very moving film, It's a very futuristic kind of a thing. So it's an emotion-less, empathy-less system, and particularly for journalism, for mass communication, I think that it can be a facilitator. It can really help us in a lot of data analytics, visualization. Certainly, it can be very helpful to us. But as I said, that these biases will have to be kept in mind. We have to be the voice of the voiceless. We have to have that empathy factor. We have to have that, journalistic ethics, which has to be there. So, how can we strike that delicate balance in media education, where we are able to weave in technology with content, which is at the end of the day, we used to say content is the king, queen, prince, princess So content is important, is at the heart of journalism, and without compromising on content, how can we utilize the power, harness the power of technology for the larger benefit of the society and the mankind is a big question. On that note, I want to leave it so that you can think about it, ponder over it, and we can come to conclusions maybe at a later stage. Thank you, Professor Padi, for organizing that.